Mr. Anurag Garg, Dr. Hanuman Chaudhary, Dr. Sheshu Lata, and distinguished citizens of the city of Hyderabad. The topic I'm going to speak to you about is something which requires to be addressed as many places in India as possible, because in it is embedded a crucial question of India's existence. Ever since Macaulay and the history written by Max Muller and other historians signed up by the East India Company, there has been a complete distortion of our history. So much so that we don't even know what is the identity of India. So many of the misconceptions that you have today are because of this lack of a proper understanding of the true history of India. Take for example the concept of Aryan and Dravidian. There is a political movement in Tamil Nadu called Dravidian movement. The word Aryan is not there in any part of our religious scripture. The word Arya is there. Arya means a gentleman, accomplished person, civilized person, and it applies to any person in India. Dravida is a term coined by Adi Shankara when he went from South India to North India to engage in debate which is called Shastra. And Shastra means you debate your opponent, and if you win the debate, he converts to your point of view formally. So Shankaracharya got Buddhists and Uttara Mimamsa school people, scholars, back to Hinduism by this process. So when he finally went and met the biggest exponent of Buddhist thought and the Mimamsa school, Mandana Mishra, he challenged him to a debate in Rajgir in Bihar. And in that debate, the first question asked of Shankara was, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am Dravida Shishu." So Mandana Mishra replied, "I understand Shishu means a child, but what is this Dravida?" And he then explained, Adi Shankara, that Dravid is a Sandhi word. As it has been explained to me, I have not seen the original text, but it has been explained to me, Tra and Vid. Tra means three, and Vid means the three coasts. Vid means the coast. So where the three coasts combine, that is Dravida, which means South India. The three coasts you see, western coast, eastern coast, and the part of Kanyakumari, with bordering the three oceans, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean. So Dravida was a regional term, and the British converted that into a racial term, and they converted Aryan also into a racial term. And they cooked up this history that Dravids were ruling India, and then the Aryans came from Europe across the mountains, Khyber Pass, and they beat up the Dravidians and drove them south. So therefore there are two different races called Aryans and Dravidians. Now, how both became Hindu, that is not explained by British historians. But there is no substance in it whatsoever that these two are two different races. Because today we have the genetic study done by DNA and published in reputed journals like the Journal of Genetics of the University of Cambridge, the University of Houston, University of Mysore. Many researchers have come, you can even Google it and get it. And what does the DNA study show? The DNA study shows that all Indians have the same DNA structure. Whether it is the North Indian or the South Indian, whether it is the Brahmin or the scheduled caste, whether it is the Hindu or Muslim, they all have the same DNA. I mean, within the frequency curve of the DNA variation. And I tested this out once in Bombay, when there was a movement there led by Mr. Raj Thackeray, where he was targeting his people were targeting the Biharis and the UP Walas. And the speeches they were giving is that the UP Walas have stolen our Marathi jobs. So I told a friend of mine that, you know, Raj Thackeray, can you get me a sample of his hair? Because DNA can be tested not only from blood, skin, but hair also. He said, yeah, I go to the same hairdresser, so one day I will bring it to you. So he brought me a bottle of his hair. And then I went and gave a taxi driver 10 rupees and said, can I take a small sample of your hair? He thought I was mad or something. But anyway, for 10 rupees, he said, yes, just take my hair. And I got it tested here in one of your microbiological laboratories in Hyderabad, and found that the DNA of Raj Thackeray and the UP taxiwala was the same. And I announced it in a public platform in Bombay that Mr. Thackeray, you have the same DNA as UP wala, therefore you must have also come from UP. Or you accept that we are all the same. The same thing with Hindus and Muslims. Which means that the ancestors of Hindus or Muslims are also Hindus. Not Arabs. So, what has this misconception done to us? It has divided the country on all kinds of bogus arguments. Today we have lost heavily in our foreign policy in Sri Lanka because Mr. Karunanidhi and the Dravidian, so-called Dravidian movement, which was created by the British, says, no, our Tamils are suffering. Well, let me tell you that the Sinhalas also came from India. They came from Orissa and Bihar. And there is a study of Tamil DNA and Sinhala DNA shows that they are the same. The DNA is the same. So how can we discriminate between two Indians, one coming from Orissa and Bihar and one coming from Tamil Nadu? But our Prime Minister, poor man, he has succumbed. And we built houses in Sri Lanka, we built roads in Sri Lanka for rehabilitation, we have opened schools in Sri Lanka, and guess who goes and inaugurates it? The British Prime Minister goes and inaugurates it, while the Indian Prime Minister sitting at home. So all this is because of this reason. And it has gone pretty deep. One day Karunanidhi told me that, you see, we can never celebrate Ram Leela. We will celebrate Ravan Leela. Why? Because Ram was a Brahmin and Ravan was a Shudra. I said, you got it all wrong. Ram was a Kshatriya and Ravan was a Brahmin. He refused to believe it till I produced the Kamban Ramayana, which is in in Tamil. And then he said, but anyway, he's our Tamil. I said, he is not even Tamil. He was born near the borders of Delhi, which is now called Noida. And his wife, Mandodari, was born in Meerut. Both went to Mansarovar. And there Ravan did tap, you see, it is tapasya. And you know Lord Shiva is a soft touch. So he gave him a var, the varam as it's called in Tamil. He gave him a boon that nobody can defeat you unless they hit you at a particular place in your stomach. And with that strength he started looking around, who shall I conquer? And found that his relative Kuber was ruling in Sri Lanka. So he went to Sri Lanka, conquered it and crowned himself the king of Sri Lanka. That's the truth. And after people had forgotten all this, in 1981, after 3 years of talking with the Chinese, they agreed to open the Kailash Mansarovar route on the condition that I will go there first. So when I went on this long trek from Pithodagarh in UP all the way, climbing 22,000 feet and then reaching finally Kailash. On the way I saw a huge lake. I thought this lake was Mansarovar. But the Chinese guard who were with me told me, no, this is not Mansarovar. Mansarovar is another 5 kilometers away. This is called Ravan Haranga. I said, Ravan Haranga? I mean, what is this Haranga? So he said the Haranga in Tibetan means Sarovar, lake. Ravan, I said, what is this Ravan? He said, some Indian who had come here and it is named after them. So I told him, very nice. I will take a bath here first. He said, no, don't take a bath here because you will get lots of leeches and all this water is poisonous. And I said, you will take a sip. He said, no, then you may even die. So out of mischief, I had an empty bottle. I filled that Ravan Haranga water in a bottle. When I returned to India, I met Karunanidhi and said, you are a Ravan Bhakta. Please drink this and show me. Now, of course, no more Karunanidhi celebrates Ravan Leela. He has given it up. He is still a little angry with Lord Rama. I don't know why. He launched a big campaign to break Rama Setu. I had to fight a court case on that. I got a stay order. For final hearing on 26th, I hope to make it declared by the Supreme Court as the National Monument of India. One day when I was arguing, it came in the paper, Swamy defends Ram Setu. So Karunanidhi got upset. How can he say it is Ram Setu? Is Ram an engineer? Did he build the Setu that is to be called Ram Setu? Now this is the kind of belittling he did of our Hindu religion on a misconception. Next day he became unwell. So he had to be admitted to the hospital. And the hospital's name was Ramachandra Medical Hospital. So I wrote to Karunanidhi, please get well soon. At least Ram has MBBS, you don't have to worry. Why is all this being fed into our brain? There's a misconception today that any foreigner came to India, he beat us up and took over this country because of divisions in our country. But the truth is quite different. In fact, I didn't even myself realize it because I also was brought up in a convent school, so these history books were used to teach that. Till when I started teaching at Harvard, I had a Saudi Arabian student. He told me whether he could meet me after class. I said, of course. So when I came out of the classroom, he was there. He said, my colleagues in the university in Dhahran, in Saudi Arabia, are doing a research project on which they wanted some inputs from you. I said, what is it? He said, we are investigating the question, how is it that India, even today, is 80% Hindu? Well, I said, I am not able to understand the significance of this question. So he said, see, we are studying Islamic history, and we find that Persia was ruled by Zoroastrians, and Islamic forces invaded Persia, conquered it, and having conquered it within 15 years by their usual method of forcible conversions, they converted within 15 years 100% of Persia to Islamic religion. Today, Persia is called Iran. Iran is an Islamic country. Then they went neighboring to Mesopotamia, Babylon, which is now called Iraq. In 17 years, they converted it into 100% Muslim. Then they went to Egypt, and they converted in 21 years Egypt into 100% Muslim. Even Christians went to Europe, and 50 years they converted Europe to 100% Christian. But in your country, the Muslims ruled for 800 years, Christians ruled for 200 years, and still you're 80% of Hindu. How is that possible? Then you start looking deeper, and you find there was never a year when some part of India was in rebellion. Whether it was Rana Pratap, who fought, he did win, but he fought and lost everything. Same thing with Shivaji, he fought and won. Victorious. In Karnataka, in near Bijapur, there is a place called Hampi. There the Shankaracharya of Sringeri, the descendant of the first, the nominee of the first Shankaracharya, the first Shankaracharya, by the way, was Mandana Mishra, whom Shankaracharya converted. He converted him and made him the first Shankaracharya of Sringeri. There the Sringeri Acharya found two young boys who had been converted to Islam, reconverted them to Hindu, and made them put their hand on a rock and said, from here we'll start an empire for the renaissance of Hinduism. And the Vijayanagara Empire rose from that rock. And it spread right up to Bengal. It covered more territory than the Mughal Empire ever covered. It lasted 300 years. How much what was the period from Akbar to Aurangzeb, the core period of Mughal rule? 150 years. This is 300 years. And that is only 150 years. And less territory covered, ruling over less territory. And yet you open your history books, what will you see? You will see chapter after chapter on one Mughal emperor to another Mughal emperor. Akbar to Jahangir to Shah Jahan to Aurangzeb to Shah Alam. But for Vijayanagara Empire, one paragraph. There was an empire called Vijayanagara Empire in South India. Not even they will say Bijapur. This is the way your history has been dished out to you from Macaulay's times. And therefore a large amount of misconceptions arise. Today I am going to speak to you about one such misconception, and why it should be understood that what is the truth of it. Hindutva is a word which immediately evokes fear. That there is something communal, there is something violent, there is something exclusive, etc. Something undemocratic. But the fact of the matter is, the substance of Hindutva is exactly the opposite. Let me say, which is the one religion in this world which says that all religions lead to God? Is it Christianity? No. Is it Islam? No. I can't think of any religion. Is it Judaism? No. The only religion in the world which says that all religions lead to God is Hinduism and not any other. This religion, when it was ruling as 100% of India, people came from abroad. For example, the Zoroastrians, after getting atrocities committed on them by the Islamic forces, came to India. We received them. We gave them a place to stay in Gujarat, and we built their fire temples. They are worshipped through the fire. We built their fire temple and looked after them. So much so, with 1947, when the British were leaving, they asked the Parsi community, like the Anglo-Indians whom we have made some reservations in Parliament and Assembly, can we make reservations for you? And the Parsi said, no thank you, the Hindus have looked after us, you just leave and go, we are safe. Persecuted all over the world. The Jews came to India. They came to Cochin, Bombay. We received them. The Travancore king and the Cochin kings received them. They built fire temples for them, which you can even see today in Bombay. After Israel was founded, many Jews left and went, but of course some have still stayed. For example, the celebrated general who liberated Dhaka was General Jacob. General Jacob was a Jew, and the Pakistanis made a grievance of it that we deliberately put a Jew to attack Pakistani forces. It was just accidental. We didn't even think that he was a Jew. But when Israel was founded and its parliament was constituted and the session began, the first resolution passed by Israel is "Thank you, India, the only country where we were not persecuted." So how can this religion create any misconception? After all, Hindutva means what? Hindu-ness. The quality of being a Hindu. Is there a distinctive quality of being a Hindu as opposed to a Muslim and a Christian? Of course there is. First of all, we don't have a free, our scriptures can be amended. Not the Shruti, not the Vedas, but Veda is philosophical. But the prescriptions, the Shastras, they can be rewritten. And we therefore look at the scientific phenomenon and decide accordingly what needs amendment. We have never believed the world is flat. We have never persecuted anybody because he said it is not the sun which goes around the earth, but it is the earth which goes around the sun, as Galileo was in Italy. We have been the most rational scientific religion. So, if you have learned qualities of that, questioning mind, why are we a democracy today? Is because the Indian can question. He can question even the great Upanishads. We can say, no, there is no God. You can say, no, it's all Maya. There are so many schools of thought with the common single thing that God exists and His darshan you can have in this life. There is no other religion which says you can meet God in this life. Ours is the only, Hindu religion is the only religion which says if you follow the discipline, even if you have lived a life of sin, your tapasya will free you and you will be able to meet God in this life. And that is why in every district you will see a Swamiji. And today they have become very popular. Look at Sri Ravi Shankar. Oh, what a crowd! Oh, what a crowd! What a crowd! Baba Ramdev, Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Coimbatore. All these people are drawing such big crowds and mostly foreigners. Because there is something about this Hindutva, Hindu-ness, which foreigners find they can't get it in their country. If you go to Google and type Julia Roberts. Who is Julia Roberts? She is a Hollywood actress. Very famous actress, got a lot of Oscars, made a lot of money. She one day came for shooting to Haryana. And then she told them that I want to go to such and such ashram. She was taken to their ashram and there she stayed because the Swamiji, she asked, I have won everything in the film world. I have enough money, but I'm not happy. Tell me what is wrong with me. I heard that you sannyasis, sadhus, monks, you can tell us the way to true happiness. So he said, I can't tell you like this. You'll have to stay here and go through some of the discipline. So she stayed there for 2 weeks. She stayed there for 2 weeks. And then she came out of it. She went back to the United States. It was all in Google. And she held a press conference. Their husband was by her side. 2 children were by her side. She said, for the first time in my life, I've understood what happiness is. I learned it in India. And therefore, I've decided from today, with my husband and 2 children, to become Hindu, giving up my Christianity. Now, how can you think of this as fascism? What is fascism? A group. Where does the word fascism come from? It was originally invented in Italy. Now you know. Came from the word fasciso. 1921, Mussolini gave this word, and in the Western, in English, it became known as fascism. Fascism means a group, and that group will blindly obey the leader. It is not committed to democracy. It is not committed to any variation in opinion. It is a group, and that group, in order to acquire power, will use violence. That is the concept of fascism originally. Now the other day, in a TV debate, one congressman said, you belong to the BJP, you are with RSS, you are fascist. So I said, why are you looking so angry? You should be pleased. He said, why should I be pleased? I said, because your Congress party leader, father was a fascist. He was in the army of Mussolini, and later on he became in the army of Hitler. And Hitler sent the army to Russia, and there they were defeated, and he was taken prisoner. I said, I even know the prison where he was. Near St. Petersburg, there is a town called Vladimir. There, Sonia Gandhi's father was there for 4 years. If you go to Sonia Gandhi's house in Italy, it's in a small town called Orbasano. every wall will have a big picture of Mussolini. Now, how do I know that? And I know so many things about her. So how can Congress people call us fascist? Or anyone who says that we are today not asking for return to the old, rigid, ossified Hinduism. We want a renaissance in Hinduism. This is what Aurobindo said. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said in his own terminology. No one wants the old, because some of them is got ossified. We would like to get rid of it. For example, this Varna system. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Asprishya, that is untouchable. Untouchability came much later. Original idea, there was no untouchability. When two rishis met, Bhrigu and Bhardwaja, they discussed how to create a stable society. So Bhrigu proposed that the stable society is one which is decentralized and its power is decentralized. And he said there are four sources of power. One, learning, knowledge is a source of power. Weapons is a source of power. Wealth is a source of power. And land is a source of power. And he said that we should distribute this so that those who have learning do not have weapons or wealth or land. Those who have weapons cannot make policy because that requires learning. Those who have wealth cannot get social status because they have wealth. If they are philanthropists, they will. That means sacrifice. And those who have land must produce. If they produce, they must produce for the society and not for profit. This is how Bhrigu devised it. And it had nothing to do with birth. It had to do with this commitment. You want to be a Brahmin, you want to be a Rishi, then you have to be a person who lives without property, without land, without weapons. You live in a hut in a forest and wear nothing but a bagwa, kapda. You see, that is the concept of a Brahmin. Then only you qualify to be a Brahmin. If you are a Kshatriya, you defend the nation. But you cannot make policy. Like in Europe, the kings can make policy. You cannot even give punishment. The court is not the king, according to us. We were not a dynasty. We were not a monarchy. We had distributed this power. Veda Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, was not born in a Brahmin family. His mother was a fisherwoman. Can't get lower than that. And he became a Maharishi, wrote the Mahabharata. Valmiki was born in a Dalit house. The Dalits accept him as theirs. But he rose to become a Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Kalidasa was cutting wood in the forest, branches of trees, and he was considered generally stupid. But he rose to become the greatest poet of India and a Maharishi. Vishwamitra was a terror for the gods also. But he was not born in a Brahmin house. His father and mother were Kshatriyas. But he rose to such, with penance, he rose to such power that even the gods were afraid of him. That was Vishwamitra. So, as I said, pointed out to you that Ravan was a Brahmin, but he broke the law. He abducted Sita, and a Kshatriya killed him. And the Brahmins didn't say, hey, this Kshatriya has killed one of our Brahmins, let us take revenge against him. They didn't say that. We worship Lord Rama. So where did the misconception come that this will be a fascist? Many of these Dalit fellows who are NGO types, their mind has been captured by the Americans and the Christians. They always argue with me that no, this is all bogus, it's all racial theory. Then I point out the DNA, they have no answer for that. Then they say, no, the skin color is different of South Indians from North. I said, that's got nothing to do with race. Skin color has got to do with pigmentation, it's a response to the sun. If you live near the equator, the sun is much stronger, it's a direct ray. If you remove the pigmentation, you will become white color. In fact, in America, there was a singer called Michael Jackson. He once went to a doctor and said, I have read this somewhere in the magazine, can you take out my pigmentation? He said, sure, took out his pigmentation. He looked like a white man. Everyone who sees Michael Jackson don't know he's an African. So, all these Dalit people, they give me this thing. I say it's got nothing to do with it. If you develop your necessary self-confidence, for which of course the society is obliged to give you some special arrangements because they were imposed disabilities on you. But look at Dr. Ambedkar. He went to Columbia University in 1916, wrote a PhD thesis in economics. 1916. He wrote wonderful treatise on the history of India. You should read his history of India. He said that there are one people, they are not several races. And then he went to England and got a law degree. Became a barrister. Came back to India. And the people used to refer to him as Bhimrao. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge University, failed the exam. They gave him a gentleman pass and sent him home. After he came back home, people started calling him Pandit Nehru. This is the ossification we want to go away. I would like to refer to Ambedkar as the Pandit Ambedkar. Perhaps I think the best thing to do is forget about all this Brahmin, Kshatriya, etc. It is difficult to delink it with the past. Let's call ourselves Hindus. And nothing more. And have the quality of Hindutva. That's the Hinduness. What is Hinduness? Being deferential to your parents. You will not find this in America and Europe. Agreeing to take care of the sick in your family. You will not see that in America. You will see them, they'll put them in some nursing home. In this country, we respect old age. America, they don't. The moment you retire, you have to sit in the park and feed the birds. This is a totally different society because the relationship is different. Relationship between husband and wife, father and son, mother and daughter. All these things are different. These are the qualities of Hindutva. And it is this which has made us a democratic country. Our neighbors are not democratic countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh. I mean, they are, but they keep torturing and then going back to dictatorship. Sri Lanka is, but Sri Lanka is Buddhism. Buddhism, I mean, it's part of the larger family of this country, of Hindus. Even Muslims, because their DNA is the same and their ancestors are therefore Hindus. I welcome them, and there are some who accept this. The Shias accept it, the Ahmadis accept it, the Sufis accept it, the Bohras accept it, many other such castes, even the such castes, who doesn't accept it. And in their mind it is clear what the world should be, as it is as Muhammad taught them. I asked Muslims once, why you do not insist on a separate personal law in Australia? They accept uniform civil code in Australia. You know that? Why? But in India, you demand it. In Saudi Arabia, you demolish masjids left, right, and center. You build roads by demolishing masjids. You build a palace in Makkah, demolishing the very masjid which Muhammad used to read namaz in. But you will not allow a masjid to be demolished. I am not suggesting that there should be unauthorized demolition of masjids. You can't take law in your own hands. But the government can. The government does it. In Turkey just now, they are building a big highway from Ankara to Iraq, to the northern part of Iraq. And the Prime Minister was asked that you are going to demolish, by building this road, something close to 74 masjids. He said, yes, masjid is a place, a mosque is a place to facilitate reading of namaz. And namaz can be read anywhere, even on the railway station, even in this hall, in your drawing room. Mosque is not a religious place. During British India, when the British were in power, they demolished it. And this is not something I have brought from abroad. It is there in a constitutional bench judgment of the Supreme Court, 1994, Volume 6. Supreme Court Cases, as a journal, page 378, paragraph 81. This one paragraph. Where constitutional bench says that a temple is a religious place, but not a mosque. And how do I know that? When I was law minister, Rajiv Gandhi had helped us to form the government, and Chandrasekhar became Prime Minister, and I got two portfolios, one was commerce and the other was law. So Rajiv Gandhi told me that he had started a case in the London House of Lords to retrieve a Nataraj statue, bronze statue, which had been stolen and taken from Tanjavur. So I studied the case and I found that there was an unused temple in Tanjavur, one of the villages of Tanjavur, near Tanjavur, where no one was praying, it was under lock and key, grass was growing, all that. And a farmer was digging for harvest, for planting seeds, and he struck iron, he dug up further, found a beautiful big Nataraj. So he took it out and cleaned it up, and was boasting to everybody. Suddenly some touts arrived and said, listen, what can you do with this Nataraj? You can show it for some days, after that it will be a burden on you. We are ready to give you 1 lakh rupees if you sell it to us. Now farmer had not seen 1 lakh rupees, so he immediately sold it. They then smuggled it out, took it to London, and there they put it up for auction. Auction was for 11 crore rupees. Equivalent of 11 crore rupees. So somebody must have given a complaint to Rajiv Gandhi. So he then asked the embassy to get into action. So the matter, when it came to me, I thought the best thing to do is go to court. So I went to the House of Lords. I sent our people to the House of Lords. And we argued the matter there. What the company argued was that this was lying in disuse. It was found by a farmer, we paid him 1 lakh rupees, it became my property. And therefore, our property, and therefore we can sell it as we like. Our argument was that a temple is constructed after, a temple is consecrated after the Prana Pratishtha Puja. That means the god enters the idol and he becomes the owner of the temple. I can best be a trustee of a temple. I cannot be a owner of a temple. Because the owner is the deity, the god. So Nataraja was the owner of that temple. And then we argued that once a temple is built, it shall always remain a temple, whether it is in use or disuse, or somebody is praying there or not praying there, because it is belonging to God and nobody can take it away from God. That argument has been accepted now by the Allahabad High Court in this Ram temple case. The only issue now is whether they should build a masjid nearby or some distance away. That's all that the dispute is. The House of Lord upheld our view and wrote a judgment that yes, it has been to our satisfaction proved that a Hindu temple shall all be properly done by the Prana Pratishtha Puja etc. is always going to be a temple whether it is in use or disuse. This is the House of Lord. So when I say that Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi and the Ram temple in Ayodhya and the Krishna temple in Vrindavan, I tell the Muslim community, you got a masjid there, it is not, it's only a building. I will build it to you for some nicer, much better looking, more modern masjid somewhere else. You leave these three. The Muslims, why shouldn't they accept that? In fact, when I was law minister, I started the discussion with the Babri Masjid Action Committee, and they were almost ready. But then Chandrasekhar government fell. So I could not complete. Shahabuddin was leading us in. He finally said, prove to me that there was a temple below, and I will personally go and demolish the Babri Masjid. Well, the Allahabad High Court then set up a commission, and now they're being established. So I ask you, what is the quality of Hindutva that I should be thinking of it as Fascism? Fascism means a group with a leader and undying loyalty to that leader, unquestioning loyalty to that leader, using violence for your supremacy. I cannot believe that any Hindu has ever done this. I'd like you to read once, if you can access it, I'm sure, from the Google. 1936, Harvard University celebrated its 300th anniversary. Scholars from all over the world in 1936 to Harvard University and said, please give a lecture of your liking, of your subject. So lots of people came. From China they invited the president of Beijing University. His name was Dr. Hu Shi. Incidentally, he was a Christian. He came and the topic he chose was the Indianization of China, a case of 300 years of cultural borrowing. When I first was told about it, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I went to the Harvard University Weidner Library, took out all the tricentennial volumes, and found the paper they think. And what does he say? He says that China has been, this is 1936, China has been brainwashed by Hindutva. The concepts of Hindus has fascinated the Chinese, and the law of karma and the reincarnation, all these concepts have become so glamorous that they have swallowed it both time and sinker. But being a Christian, he didn't approve of it. He said China can never progress unless it completely removes this Indianization of itself, and therefore we should all get to become westernized. That is what his conclusion is. But he is completely documented. Go to Cambodia. Did we invade Cambodia? No. Did we invade Indonesia? Not at all. Thailand? No. Which country have we invaded, conquered it, and converted it? None of it. We have never gone across. That's why India and China were neighbors for more than 2,500 years of known history. More than 2,500 years of history. Much more. 700, yes, it would be about 2,700, 2,800 years. Never had a war till 1962. Europe had a war practically every year, sometimes twice a year. Small states quarreling, France, Germany, America, England, all quarreling with each other. But we didn't, because it was always understood that all matters will be sorted out by discussion. That is Hindutva. How can we say that is fascist? And we have seen that in crisis. 1932, the British played mischief by offering the scheduled caste a separate electorate, like they offered the Muslims, and Muslims took it. Gandhi said, if this happens, India is gone, finished, completely over. So he went on a fast to death. Ambedkar was totally opposed to Gandhi. But when he saw that the concept that Gandhi was fighting for, he sat with Gandhi and Madan Mohan Malviya, discussed it, and the Pune Pact was signed, which is the basis for the reservations that we have today for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So when it came to a crisis, we came together. 1962, I have good friends with the Chinese. Once I asked them, why did you attack us? And why did you withdraw after attacking? So they came down to Tezpur and then suddenly they went back. So they said the answer to the first question was to teach Jawaharlal Nehru a lesson. That I didn't mind very much. But they said the second thing was that we were told that if India is unprepared, if you attack, it will break into 20 countries. And we found that as soon as we crossed the border, this whole country is up in flames. Women are taking out their bangles and putting it in defense funds. Country got united in 1962, it got united in 1977, it got united in 1984 when Indira Gandhi was assassinated and gave 415 seats to Rajiv Gandhi. I'm hoping that 2014 also will be united and give BJP. Kafir. We don't have a concept of jihad. We in fact used to have very civilized rules of war. Our rules of war was what? No war before the sun rises and no war when the sun sets. 2. War will not be carried out in populated areas. War will not be carried out in agricultural areas. And war will be only carried out in large open field like Kurukshetra. And war starts in the morning, the battle starts in the morning, when the sun sets, go back to your tent and go to sleep. Next morning wake up, have a bath and all and then go. And third, if you lose the war and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, then you are supposed to return everything to that person, give him an honorable send-off. So Rana, the Prithviraj Chauhan forgave Muhammad Ghori how many times? 16 times. Forgave him and sent him off. And that was a mistake. You should have only forgiven him once. And today's terrorists should not even be forgiven once. How can anything be more civilized than this? That's why you see Mahabharata, Kurukshetra. Ravana had to come out of his palace into the open Maidan to fight Ram. This such a humane culture, and you ask that you should abide by it. You should have its value system. You should absorb the value system of that. That cannot ever be fascist, because for fascist, you must regard anyone who is not with you as your enemy and eliminate him, kill him. That is there in the Islamic religion. It is there even in Christianity. The only place where it is not there, that those who don't believe in what you believe, eliminate them, is Hinduism. And that is the way in which we have been throughout the centuries. Even at the time we had a terrible conflict with the Buddhists. Not a single Buddhist scripture was burnt. The Christians came to Goa, got everything they could lay their hands on. Held an inquisition. So how can anyone say that Hindutva is fascism? You can say Hindutva will swallow you, so therefore be careful, keep it at a distance. And that is what in Newsweek, the editor called Miller, Jane Miller, she wrote an article, now we are all Hindus. It's an editorial article of this Newsweek. I think it was in 2007 or 2008. And you can get it again in Google. Write Miller, Newsweek, we are all Hindus, you'll get it. Now what does it say? She says that today, this modern world, people feel that why should we insist that our religion is the only way? Hindus say that all religions lead to God, we should take that view. Why should we say that the misery we are suffering today is because of somebody else? We think that our past bad deeds are responsible. Then she says that, well, sometimes we notice that without trying anything, we get what we want, we get something. And sometimes we try so hard and we don't get it. What's the explanation? She says the Hindus have an explanation. It's called the law of karma. So she goes, and then she says cremation has become more sensible because today to bury in New York is such an expensive proposition. And that's why there's a book written called The High Cost of Dying in America. So he says that slowly, even though we are supposed to be a Christian nation, we are acquiring, assimilating, capturing Hindu concepts. And I find this when I go to America. Yoga centers in every place. Meditation. All our Swamijis going there having, oh, wonderful. They get paid very well. And they are not very discriminating, the Americans. They see my name is Swamy, so they think I must be also one of them. And I get phone calls. I say, no, I can't take this now, I'm busy. They say, no, we will double your fees. There's so much, and you can see that here. Because this brings me to my last point. The most important way of being happy is to pursue material interests, achieve material progress while harmonizing spiritual advancement. Western society is a one-dimensional society, material progress. We were not like that. When I was a student at Harvard, one of my American class, I had gone there to get my PhD first. And my classmate, an American, asked me, can I ask you one question without your taking offense? I said, what? So why you Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi? So I said, why not? He said, because Mahatma Gandhi is not properly dressed. So how can you follow a leader who is not properly dressed? When you come to think of it, in America, Europe, leaders are very well dressed. Lovely tie, clean, starched shirts, best suits, polished shoes, shining shoes. They're all very well dressed. Even the spiritual leaders are very well dressed. For example, Pope, satin gown, diamond necklace, ruby necklace, sapphire necklace. His cape is full of jewels. But see our sadhus, one bhagwa kapda, ordinary cloth, Mahatma Gandhi, one langoti, and the whole country following him. In fact, Churchill couldn't understand. He said, how can people follow a naked fakir? And this American student also told me that if we have a leader dressed like Mahatma Gandhi, we will put him in jail for indecent exposure. Isn't this a different value system where we achieved glory, height of glory in material progress, science, but never lost sight of the spiritual values? And that's why we are today, there were 46 civilizations till today. 45 are dead. Egyptian, Greece, Mesopotamia, Babylon. But the only civilization which is still alive and continuing is the Hindu civilization. Of course, some people can say that if you get this Hindu consciousness, what about the minorities now? Why should they be afraid? If I remove caste consciousness in our Hindu society, make everybody think of himself as a Hindu and nothing more, or how does it affect a Muslim or a Christian? It should not. Yes, if you are going to target Muslims and force them to convert, that we will never do. Hindus have never believed in proselytization. Never in the history we have believed in proselytization before. We have given our ideas. Today many mullahs are very afraid that some of the Muslims are now practicing yoga, and they think that this is a dangerous thing. I asked once a Muslim, what is the difficulty if I say that you should have only one wife? After all, 50% is women and 50% is men in a society. And if you marry more than one, somebody else is not going to get a wife. Unless you are going to go for love jihad or something and get it from somewhere else. So what is wrong if you say one woman, one wife? One man, one wife? He said the problem is in our minds that once we start accepting like this, then slowly you Hindus will swallow us and we will be no more Muslim. Now that's a fear that our concepts may become so appealing. So shield them. Don't let them come near us. Well, be there, no problem. But I have found today a large number of the educated Muslims. Christians, of course, you need not say anything because they are, except that their adherence to the church. All other matters, there's no difference. But in the Muslim community, I find now a rebellion at the strict requirements that are being imposed by the mullahs, and they seem to be doing it for this fear. I think we should be able to assure them that we are interested in reform in the Hindu system. We are interested in a renaissance in the Hindu system. We want to bring back the values in the Hindus that met the test of time. The Hindu-ness of being a Hindu. Not enough to be a Hindu, but the Hindu-ness. And that, my opinion, can never be fascist, because for fascist you will have a commitment to eliminate everybody else. That is never been in India's culture, tradition, religion, and therefore there is no threat whatsoever if we bring about a Hindu renaissance by propagating Hindutva. Thank you very much.
Friends, please be seated. We are still left with